Hey everyone, welcome to my new series where I crochet one of these squares every week for you. So different stitch pattern every week. So let's see, this is week number 1. So we're starting with square number 1, or card number 1 I should say. And this one is the single crochet. So before I get into that, colors. As I said in the intro, I'm not doing a random color generator this time. I am in control of my colors. So we are starting off with 2 shades of pink. This is Poppy Red and this is Pink Pearl. Yeah, Pink Pearl. I don't know. I'm feeling the pink. Right now, it's the middle of January. Where I live, the fog is thick and has been thick for days. So I am looking forward to spring, Valentine's Day, all the things. So let's bring in some pinks. Okay, let's take a look at our square. So here we go. This is square number 1, the single crochet. So you've got a chart there. It's a very simple chart. These little crosses indicate single crochet stitches, and then these little ovals indicate chains. Here you see a repeat. So that just means you're repeating your chain. The top of, to work the square shown in the card, make 16 chains and follow chart. Working rows 1 and 2 in yarn A, and then repeat stripe sequence 2 rows in yarn B, 2 rows in yarn A until a square. To create the single crochet edging, see pages 20 to 23. So that's in reference to the book. What did they say? 22, 23. And that is the single crochet edging that they're talking about. We'll get to that when we're finished. All right, so I am using a 5mm hook for this. And I should have found my ends beforehand, but I did not. I'm back. I had a serious yarn birth to deal with, but that's all good. We can make it. All right, so let's get started. The first instruction is to make 16 chains. All chains start with a slip knot, and there are many ways to make a slip knot. The way I do it is I sort of wrap my yarn around my fingers. Actually, I usually just use 2, and then take that yarn and put it underneath. So I've created kind of a loop through the loop on my fingers, and then I can just pull that. This slip knot is adjustable. So I'm going to put my hook inside that slip knot, and we're going to make a chain. So to make a chain, you are basically just taking your hook, and this is called yarning over because the yarn is over your hook, even though it feels like you're going under, so it should be called a yarn under. It's called a yarn over. So you're gonna put the yarn over your hook, use the little hooky bit of your hook to pull that yarn through the chain on your hook, the slip knot that you made. So now you have another loop on your hook, and you're going to repeat that. You're going to put the yarn over your hook, rotate your hook so that you can easily pull it through that loop that was on your hook. So you're just going to keep repeating this until you have the number of chains required. So a chain are these formations down here. So right now I have 4 chains. I need a pokey thing. I'll get another hook. So I have 4 chains, and you can see this sort of the 2 strands that make a V, and they intersect, they sort of overlap into each other. Each V is a chain. So I've got 4 V's, 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 4 chains. This loop on your hook doesn't count for anything. It's a promise of a stitch, but it's not a stitch yet. Okay, so that's 4. I need 16. As you're making your chains, move your hands up. I always like to hold my work right underneath my hook. It gives me the ability to control the size of the chain, and yeah, the tension is what basically I'm controlling there. So what do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I need 8 more. Oh, I got carried away. I was just chaining. All right, there should be 16. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Perfect. So whenever we are crocheting into our chain, we don't go into the very first chain. Okay, so this loop doesn't count for anything. This is the first chain, my first sort of proper stitch. However, if I try and crochet right into that, I kind of undo everything. It's very loose. This gets just, you lose it, okay? So the way to fix that, and I have to replace that chain, is to skip that and go into the next one. When you are working into your chain, it is quite common to just work in underneath that top part of your chain. I don't like doing that. I find it leaves my chains quite loose. So the bottom of my work has this real sort of loose, gappy strip down at the bottom. And if you come around and do a border, you never really hide that gappy bit. So what I like to do is work into my back bumps. If you turn your chain over and you look at the back of your chain, you see well, right now it's vertical. See these vertical bumps? They kind of look like links in a chain. Weird that, right? This is a back bump. It's a little bit trickier to get into your back bump, but it leaves a cleaner, tighter finish along the bottom. And if you're adding a border, which we're going to be doing on these, it's easier to work into those stitches on the bottom when you're coming around. So I'm going to turn my work over. My first chain has gotten kind of small, but that's okay. We're ignoring that chain anyways. And I'm looking for this second bump. It's also been pulled kind of tight. So I'm just going to use my fingernail, get my hook underneath it. I'm going to grab my yarn. Again, that's called a yarn over because my yarn is over my hook. Pull it back through that bump. I'm just going to take a moment and straighten everything out. So I just kind of pull down on my work, pull on my working yarn, trying to get the legs of this stitch to be even. I'm going to yarn over again and pull through both of those legs. So that is my first single crochet. I'm going to work to the next, move to the next bump, put my hook in, yarn over, pull up a loop, straighten everything out. And I always pull my loops down to the base of my hook head because that gives the consistent size. I'm going to yarn over and pull through those 2 loops. And I'm just going to do this in every single one of those bumps. So I know I'm starting this series, and if you are a more advanced crocheter, I am going very slowly and you're probably bored to death. But if you are a beginner, then I'd like this series to be able to help you to make your stitches, teaching you all the tricks that I know, some that I've learned along the way, some that I have discovered myself, to just help you enjoy this hobby of crochet and make beautiful things with beautiful stitches. Okay, so that I'm at the end of my row. Now I know, because I've done this a lot, we started with a chain of 16, but then we made our first single crochet into the second chain from the hook. So I should have 15 stitches. To count our stitches, we're going to look at our piece from the top, so we see these V's. And we're going to count each V. Remember, this loop that was on my hook, it doesn't count for anything. It's just the promise of a stitch. It's not actually a stitch. So only these V's count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I've got 16 because I fudged the beginning, didn't I? Yeah. I was chatting too much and I lost count. It really doesn't matter for this particular square. So I've got 16. I just got to remember that I have 16 and not 15 stitches. If you've done this properly, you have 15 stitches, and we're just going to go from there. All right. So looking at my chart, bring that back in. This indicates the chain that we made. And then this little circle here, that indicates that single chain that we missed. You remember how we went into the second chain from the hook? So that's that chain that we didn't work. And then these crosses are our single crochets. So we've come all the way down, and we're here. And now to do start row 2, we need to make a chain. And then we're going to single crochet all the way down. So I'm at the end of my row 1. To start row 2, I'm going to make a chain. So I'm going to yarn over, pull the yarn through that loop that's on my hook. Now I'm going to turn my work like I'm turning a page in a book. Just going to flip it. So it was, when I had finished my row, all the stitches I made, because I'm right-handed, all the stitches I made were on the right side of my work and my hook was on the left. I've done a chain of 1, and now I'm going to flip it so that what I have already made is now on the left. My hook is on the right. It's all ready to work all the way down. If you are left-handed, everything's going to be backwards. I will see if I can find a way to mirror this so that we can help the lefties out there too. So now I'm going to start single crocheting in every stitch down this row. Let's take a look. This V right here is our chain. So we're not going to try and work into that. This next V, let's use my little pointy tool. So this V right here, that's my chain. I'm not going to work into that. This V is my first stitch, or the last stitch of my previous row, the first stitch of this row. So that's where I need to work into. So I'm going to insert my hook underneath both legs of that V, yarn over, pull a loop through, do my little straightening trick, yarn over and pull through both loops of that. So that's my single crochet. I'm going to move to the next. Now, if you look along the side, you kind of have these gaps. That's what we're aiming for. So into the gap, make sure you've got both legs of your V on top, yarn over, pull that yarn back through, yarn over, pull through the 2 loops on your hook. You're going to continue that all the way down. So I'm going to work this row. When I get to the end, we're going to do a color change. So I will meet you there. I'm at the end of my row. I have 1 stitch left. So whenever you do a color change, it happens in the final stitch of the current color that you're working with. So I'm going to insert my hook into that stitch. I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop. So I have 2 loops on my hook. This is where my color change needs to happen. It always happens with the final yarn over of your stitch, whatever your stitch is. So I'm going to drop the color I'm working with. I'm going to pick up my second color, and I'm just going to lay it over my hook. And then I'm going to draw that hook through those stitches. With my new color, I am going to chain 1. Now, because I'm going to be taking these colors up the side, I'm actually going to drape my other color over my hook so that I kind of catch it as I pull my yarn through for my chain. It'll just help keep the yarn sort of there and handy when I come back to it. So now with my second color, I can just repeat what I did for row 2, which is to single crochet in every single stitch. Remember, you're going underneath both legs of the V. I'm not worried about my yarn A tail. It's going to hang out there quite nicely until I'm ready for it. So we're just going to single crochet all the way to the end. Here I am with one stitch left. Sometimes this stitch gets pulled tightly, so it's sometimes hard to get into, and also sometimes you might skip it. If you find your work starting to make a triangle, it's likely that you're missing the beginning and the ending stitches. So counting your stitches every row will help with that. And there's also tricks with stitch markers, which I won't talk about today, but I'm sure I'll talk about in a future square. So that's my final stitch. And now to get ready to make my next row, I'm going to chain 1, turn my work, and single crochet all the way back. We're going to change colors at the end, so I will meet you there. It's a little easier this time because our color's waiting for us. It's not a new piece of yarn that we have to add. So I will show you how we do that when we get there. Here we are at my last stitch. So I'm going to insert into the stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, drop my color B, pick up my color A and draw it through those 2 loops on my hook. I'm just going to tug on my color B, and then I'm going to do what I did before and lay it over my hook, so that when I chain 1, I snag it. Then we're going to turn our work, and we're just going to repeat the pattern with color A. So that is it for this square until we get to the borders. So you're going to do 2 rows of color A, 2 rows of color B, 2 rows of color A, 2 rows of color B until your piece is square. And I will give you show you a trick for figuring out if your piece is square when I get there. So I'm going to continue this just back and forth, changing colors every 2 rows, and I will meet you back when I am close to it being square, and I will show you the trick to figuring out if your piece is square. See you then. Okay, I haven't finished off my last stitch. I'm just going to pull those loops big so I don't lose them, but I suspect that I am at square. So here's my trick for figuring out if you have a square piece. I use this all the time when I'm making washcloths, because then I don't necessarily have to count rows, and for a project like this, it'll come in really handy. So take your bottom right corner and fold it up to your bottom or your top left corner. If your edges line up and there's not like overhang, you're square. So I am square. So let's take a look at the border instructions and also this picture, because if you see, the border is in your contrasting color. So that's why I haven't finished off this last stitch, because I'm pretty sure I need to change colors. All right, so reading through this, she just talks about how, like, before it's edged. This one is different because the single crochet stitch is quite dense, but typically if you're making any sort of pattern like fans or flowers or whatever, your edges can look quite uneven. Ours look pretty good, but we're still going to put a single crochet border on. So for her, she has done 2 rounds of single crochet onto each square, and says the first row allows you to neaten any wobbly edges, and the second to set the edge so it is perfectly straight for that professional finish. On round 1, I worked 13 single crochets along each edge, placing a single crochet, a chain 1, and a single crochet into each corner, making a total of 15 across each edge with 1 chain at the corners. And then on round 2, I simply worked 1 single crochet into each stitch around, again placing a single crochet, chain 1, single crochet into the chain 1 space at each corner on round 1. This makes a total of 17 stitches along each edge plus a chain 1. So I actually have 16 stitches to work with because I made that boo-boo, which means I might have screwed myself for the rest of the blocks, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So I'm gonna change color in my last stitch. So I'm at my last yarn over. I'm gonna drop the color. I'm gonna bring up my contrasting color. I'm gonna do my little trick of trapping my color A in that chain. I'm going to do my chain 1, I'm going to turn, and now I'm going to single crochet all the way across. Before we get too far, I'm going to cut this edge, or this yarn, because I don't need that color anymore, and if I continue crocheting with it attached, it's just going to get in the way. So let's continue on. I'm approaching my corner. Now I know when I read all the instructions, if you're new to crochet, they didn't make a lot of sense to you, but this is what she's talking about. So in my last stitch, I'm going to single crochet. I'm going to chain 1, which allows me to kind of turn the corner. So now I'm going to single crochet along the side here. I'm going to go right back into that same stitch and put another single crochet. So that there helps me, that's my corner, and that kind of helps me keep everything nice and square. That chain 1 will come in handy as we come around. If you want, you can put a stitch marker in that chain 1 so you don't lose it. So why don't we do that, and I can show you what that looks like. So this is a stitch marker. These are locking stitch markers. I like them because they lock, they don't fall out. So now we're going to come down the side, and you'll see that there's no defined stitches down the side. So we need to make our own stitches. We kind of want to have the same number of stitches along the sides as we do along the top. That will help as we sew everything together. So let's just recap. I put that in the wrong spot. I put that in my single crochet, not my chain 1. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I have 16. I have 1 there already. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 9 bands of color. So a little less. This is where crochet goes into this sort of gray, amorphous, like make things up as you go along area. I need a little less than 2 stitches per color band. What the heck? Yeah. So I got 1 there. I am gonna make a stitch here. What am I looking for when I want to make a stitch? I am looking for places with a natural gap. So that could be a good place to make a stitch. Let's do that. I'll make a stitch there. And then I'm looking for places that I can go under 2 strands of yarn. And now because I need to I can't put 2 stitches per color band because then I'll have too many. So I'm going to skip this space where I previously have put stitches, and I'm just going to put a stitch here, picking up 2 strands along the side there. And now I am going to put a stitch in the next sort of hole, and here. Oops, come here. I need to get 2 strands. There we go. How many stitches do we have so far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're going to skip that hole again. We're going to come over here. That's stitch number 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and then take that one out. I'm going to go 14 here. And then you see this, if I tug on my slip knot, you see how there's a hole in the bottom there? That is going to be my 15th stitch. I'm just going to tuck my tail out of the way. I'm at a corner, so I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to go right back into that same stitch. I'm going to get my tail out of the way. I'll show you how to weave in ends after this. And then we're going to come across and do every stitch. So I've already got one there. So this is why I like to go into the back bumps. This is the bottom. This is where I started. This is my chain. Because I went into the back bumps, I have really defined stitches along the bottom, which makes it super easy to put a border in. They are tight. That is the one characteristic of working into your chain. But I just love that I can actually see all of my stitches. We are approaching the next corner. So into my last stitch here, which is like extra tight, put a single crochet, a chain 1, turn my work again, and then I put another single crochet right into that same place. Because I'm using a contrasting color, it's really easy to see where I need to put my stitch. And now I have to repeat what I did along the bottom here and evenly space 15 stitches. So I've got one. I'm going to follow the sort of system that I had where it was basically 1 in the light color and then 2 in each darker band. It's a little bit more awkward along this side to find the places to put your stitch or your hook, sorry, because of the extra yarn, because this is where we carried everything up the side. So I think I'm just going to go here. So 1 in the light pink and then 2 in the dark pink. really use your fingernail to get some of the yarn, get your hook in there. One in the light pink, two in the dark pink. Okay, I'm almost done. I just want to take a quick count and see how we're doing. So let's use my pokey tool. I did not put a stitch marker in my chain 1. It's okay though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I am right on track. That's great. So now my last stitch needs to go here in the corner where my first stitch of the round was made. Now I'm going to chain 1. And she doesn't say anything about slip stitching to finish the round, but that is typical. So to slip stitch to finish the round, you just go into that first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then you're going to pull that loop through the loop that's on your hook already. You're going to chain 1 to start a new round, and then you're going to go right back in that same space, oops, and make your first single crochet. And now you're just going to single crochet in each stitch all the way around. When we get to the corner, I will show you what we do. We're going to do our little corner trick, but in that chain 1 space that we made, which I realized I only marked for the first corner. So, whoops. Do what I say, don't do what I do. Isn't that what teachers say? Okay, here we are at the corner. I've got 1 single crochet left, so I'm going to single crochet there. My stitch marker is in my chain 1 space, so I'm just going to take my stitch marker out, and then we can take a look at these stitches. Let's see if we can see them more clearly. So I've just made a single crochet. This is my next single crochet. This is my chain 1 space. Now I don't want to try and go underneath the V. When you're trying to work into a chain, it's practically impossible because they're so tight. So we can just find the space in between our stitches. Now if you look at the stitches here, you've got 2 little lines coming through here. You can sort of see them. Try and separate them a little bit. So you've got 2 little legs there and 2 little legs there. That is your each single crochet. So that's 1 single crochet, that's the other single crochet. In between you've got this gap. That's your chain 1 space. So that's where I need to make my corner. And my corner, I'm going to go into that chain 1 space. We're going to make 1 single crochet, a chain 1, go right back in that same space and make another single crochet. So we've just mimicked what was there before in the next round. So now we can continue on. We find our next single crochet and we just put a single crochet in it. And when we get to the next corner, we're going to do that exact process again. I'm at my next corner. So I'm going to single crochet in that final stitch. This is my chain 1 space. So I'm going to stick my hook in there. I'm going to single crochet, chain 1, and single crochet all in that same space. And then I can find my next single crochet stitch and keep on going. All right, so continue that until you get back to the beginning and I will meet you there. I'm back at my beginning. I've put my last single crochet in there and I just have to, did I put my last single? Yes. I have to make my corner. So I'm going to go into that chain 1 space, single crochet, chain 1, single crochet. So now we can join to our first. So either join with a slip stitch, or what I prefer to do is what is called an invisible join. So I'm going to cut my yarn and I'm just going to pull it through that stitch. Don't worry, it's not going to tighten and disappear on me. I'm going to grab myself a yarn needle, thread that yarn onto my needle. Now, this is my first stitch here. I'm going to skip over that stitch. Oops. Okay, so that's my first stitch. I'm going to skip over that. I am going to take my needle from front to back under the second stitch. Just give it a tug. And then I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to go down through the center of my last stitch and out the back. And then I'm just going to tug things so that all my stitches are about the same size, and see how we created a faux stitch and it looks completely seamless. So when we go to join, everything is the same. So now I can weave this end in. And what I do is I basically just follow some of the stitches, usually for about the length of my needle. Pull it through. I'm going to take a moment to just kind of tug it to make sure that this stitch is all lined up and everything looks good. Now that's not enough. If I left it there, as soon as somebody washed this, it would start unraveling. So I am going to go back up the way I came, but making sure that I have overlapped a little bit. I'm not going exactly down the same path because that would just undo what I did. I'm going to go back up, and then I'm going to go back down one more time, following a different path again. Try and go through the yarn a little bit. That will help. This is acrylic, so it's not going to like felt in the wash, but going through some stitches just helps it bond to the other yarn. So now we just need to do that same process with our other 3 ends, and this square is all finished. So that is square number 1 of 50, the single crochet. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next week. Bye.